Greetings and salutations, marketing fans. Welcome back to another video podcast at themarketingdiner.com. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Jared Degnan. For those of you who have never tuned into the Marketing Diner before, the podcast is about one thing and one thing only, and that is how to help you feed your brand rather than your ego. So this episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about the two major myths about influencers. So if you are in a marketing capacity or a public relations role, chances are that a lot of your life revolves around the idea of influencers and influence. The question of who do you influence, who do you spend your time reaching out to, and how do you do it probably occupies a lot of your time. And there are two big myths that I see constantly coming up, at least within my own sphere, and especially because there's been a lot of talk about influencers and influence, especially within the context of particular platforms, Radian6, Uberview, the question of how do you measure influence in social media. These are all very big questions and very important ones as well. And the funny thing is that there are two big myths that happen to come up over and over again. And I wanted to talk a little bit about them, at least within the context of how I particularly deal with them. So I'll first start by saying that influence, by its very definition, is upheld by some very specific pillars. In fact, David Armano this past week came up with a great model, and it really talks about the 6 pillars of influence and how you can not only identify influencers, but also what it takes to sustain influence. Now, what I want to talk about today is specifically influencers themselves. So if you're in a traditional public relations role, chances are that your influencers are journalists, and you measure influence via how much circulation that each particular journalist commands, the reputation of their particular publication, and how easy it is to get in with them. So enlarging that role a little bit more and looking at it in terms of not only traditional media but also social media, we have two major myths that permeate a lot of what we do. And I've worked with a lot of different people talking about influencers, and these are the two myths that really come up more than anything else. And the first major myth is that influencers have to have an enormous reach. And this comes particularly when you're talking about bloggers. A lot of people think that in order for a blogger to be an influencer, they have to have an incredibly high UMV or unique monthly visitors. And you can usually find this by going to a site like compete.com and just Googling or searching rather their particular domain, and it'll tell you how many unique monthly visitors the blog usually gets. Now, that's a big myth because it's not just about the quantity, but it's also about the quality of influencers. My firm, Brandware Public Relations, we work often with bloggers who may not have a gigantic UMV, but they're definitely somebody that people listen to, or in other terms, it's a niche blogger, it's a niche influencer. And in order to get to these guys, in order to identify these guys, you have to look beyond the simple UMV. You have to look at what they're talking about. What are their credentials? Where are they blogging? Are they blogging on behalf of an institution, an offline institution, where they're not going to get that many UMVs? So when you're thinking about reaching out to bloggers in particular and any influencer, think about it in terms of not only how many people are they reaching, but are they reaching the right audience? And this sometimes takes a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a widening of your worldview. But when it comes down to it, you'll be able to find some really interesting influencers out there who are talking about a lot of great things. It takes a little bit longer to do, but I guarantee you the quality is worth the trade-off. The second big myth of influencers is that influencers don't like to be outreached to by marketers or public relations professionals. Now, this is true in a certain respect. This is true when you think about a public relations professional going out and just blasting the field, just going out with a canned letter saying, hey, X blogger, do you want to write about why topic, that's not what influencers want. Influencers are definitely willing to help out marketers if the marketer does their homework and is effectively reaching out to them in a way that makes their jobs easier. So, for instance, if you're reaching out to a blogger within the healthcare field, the question is not whether or not your topic is relevant, it's is it relevant to their audience? Is it going to make their lives easier? So if you are offering them the chance to write about a subject that their audience is going to like, there really will be no problem in having that blogger work with you or that journalist work with you. The only problem exists is whether or not that blogger or that journalist feels like you're just wanting them for their distribution. If you are trying to take advantage of them and trying to force upon them a topic that's not relevant to them and it's not relevant to their audience, then yes, of course they're going to reject that potential outreach. They're not going to like what they're saying to you, and you're going to kill that relationship, and you're basically going to erase any chance that you will be able to reapproach them for something that really is in their wheelhouse. So those are the two major influencers, or the two major myths, rather, that lead up to influencers, and I would love to know if you guys have more. So if you haven't done it already, go to marketingdiner.com, go to the show notes that I will be posting this episode under, and tell me what you think. I would also like to know what you guys think of the new blog format. I have decided to slim down the blog a little bit, make it a little bit easier to navigate, so I would love to know those comments as well. So until next time, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Jared Degnan, and we'll catch you again on the next episode of The Marketing Diner.